What is this garbage you're watching? I want to watch the news.
Are you making headway at least?
This is the news.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of that Gang Stalking Show. My name is Doug. I'm a TI, and I am your host. Right now, it's colder than hell. It's like 40 degrees here in Texas. The wind is blowing. I got to put this here to let me know to look this way. I got a new camera phone, and it's totally different from my other one. Okay, did I tell you I'm a TI and I've been one since 2004? If not, I have, and I am. Today's topic is about our embassy workers who have suffered some form of sonic harassment in Cuba. If you have not been keeping up with this, I really strongly urge you to follow this. This is not the standard gang stalking, the standard gang stalking story or topic or anything like that, but it does relate really a lot to organized harassment, mobbing, V2K, whatever you want to call this program. This started out about a year or two ago in Cuba. Our U.S. embassy workers stationed in Cuba and the Canadian embassy workers at that same Cuban embassy were subjected to what seemed to be some type of electronic harassment, kind of like V2K or something like that. I wish I could state specifically what it is, but I don't know what it is, and nobody knows what it is. It has, however, made a big splash in the water as far as news of something related along the lines of gang stalking. It is well within the realms of what you can call gang stalking. I don't like that term. And the reason I'm going to talk about this time is because now harassment is included along with the other problems that these people have suffered. To bring you up to speed, if you don't know anything about it, here it is in a nutshell. A couple of years ago, the Cuban embassy workers from the United States and Canada complained of, while they're in their hotel room, wherever it is they bed down for the night, they complained of these sonic attacks that affected their hearing, which, when they describe it, sounds like they were electronically harassed using some type of electronic device that impacted their hearing. Since this opened up and it's been in discussion, ABC News has reported on it. All the major media has reported on it. I don't know how much they reported on it since this last post came to light in November 2018, but I did find this on Facebook, and I found it because of Dr. John Hall, who has, he posts, well, I stole his post and I reposted it. But he has something like guinea pigs of something control on his Facebook page. You can't really interact with him or anything like that, but he does post things that are relevant to the targeting community. So basically, when this began, people started experiencing these ringing in their ears, tinnitus, loud clicks, and some people, after they left the embassy, went to see a doctor. Doctor told them, well, you've got some type of brain injury. I keep wanting to throw organic in there because I used to work at state hospitals, and organic brain injury or organic brain syndrome, those things are diagnosis. But anyway, once they came home, they reported this, they saw doctors, and now some of these people are disabled. Make a long story short, now these people are being harassed. I'm going to get into this, and I don't know how long it's going to take, but I strongly urge you to watch this video. If you watched any of my videos, just about every second or third video, I always, put my opinion in there that I believe that we are on the cusp of a breakthrough. I think it's going to come out sooner than later that there is a targeting program, not only in the United States, but all around the world. And it's going to come out. And things like this This is bringing media attention to something that the media rarely, if ever, did anything about. The closest we get to media attention is Vice did a story on what it's like for this individual who claims to be targeted in California, and they picked the wrong target. This guy talks about shape shifting and helicopters flying around, aliens and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, wow, man, Vice has got 1 million views on this, but look who they put in the spotlight. I think this guy's name is Richard Bruce. I've seen the video a couple of times, and it is just disturbing at how they make a mockery of organized harassment. Now, let me get into this. This came to light. It was posted November 2nd by the Free Beacon. And I'm going to read a few excerpts from this, and then I'm going to talk about it and how it relates to you and me right now. Okay. Congress presses for exact timeline of Cuba health attacks. They're called health attacks. They were called sonic attacks. Now they're health attacks because, I don't know. A senior member of the House Foreign Affairs Committee is pressing the State Department for an exact timeline of when mysterious and still unresolved health attacks began occurring against U.S. personnel in Cuba and China, and is calling for the removal of all diplomatic workers from Havana until an investigation into the attacks is completed. I didn't know this was going on in China. Representative Joe Wilson, he's a Republican of South Carolina, on Tuesday wrote a letter to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo citing new reports that the victims of the health attacks in Cuba and China have experienced harassment and break-ins after they were evacuated from their overseas posts and returned to the United States. Harassment and break-ins. Harassment and break-ins combined with electronic harassment. What does that sound like? Does it sound like gang stalking? Some of the diplomatic personnel told NBC News that they suspect their U.S. homes had been broken into after they found items that had been moved or tampered with when they returned. They suspect. I love how journalists nowadays it appears. We suspect. It's like looking at a woman and going, you appear to be pregnant. I suspect you may be pregnant. You either are pregnant or you're not pregnant. Either your home has been broken into or it hasn't been broken into. There's no apparent and there's no suspect. Just had to get that. According to NBC News, in addition to the attacks in Cuba and China, the victims may have been subjected to incidents of harassments and break-ins on U.S. soil. Oh shit, I leaned into the camera. I haven't done that in 2 years. Somebody's going to be pissed off because doing this scares the living crap out of them. Wilson wrote in the letter obtained by the Washington Free Beacon, this is deeply troubling. For not only have our diplomats been injured, but so have their family members, including children. Okay, I'm going to skip the rest of it, and then I'm going to read the conclusion of this, and then I'm going to throw in my 2 cents. Earlier this week, Russia loaned Cuba $50 million to purchase military equipment. A senior Russian official this week said Moscow was seriously considering establishing a military base in Cuba in response to the Trump administration's decision to leave the 1987 Intermediate Range Nuclear Forces Treaty, but U.S. officials are viewing it as more of a threat than a plan of action. The cash infusion to Cuba comes after Moscow increased its military and economic aid to Nicaragua in April, stirring new fears in the United States about the Russian influence in Latin America. Okay, let's go back over this. These people were in their bunks wherever they slept in Havana. They're embassy workers from the United States and Canada. Apparently happened in China. That's new to me. But from what I know, up to the moment, a lot of these people suffer tinnitus, ongoing tinnitus, hearing things in their head, not words or programming or anything like that. But some have also suffered some sort of brain injury. My mouth is kind of dry. I took Benadryl earlier and it's drying out my mouth, so it's making it hard for me to enunciate. But when they started complaining to this, that's when people started picking up on it. people who watch the news and who are also targeted individuals going, hey, I bet that's electronic harassment. I bet that's V2K or some other device that's being used against these people, and it is. What device it is, I don't know. Now, talking about Russia loaned, or Cuba 50 million to purchase military equipment. Well, I'm going to say this. We know Cuba they're somehow or another propping up Russia is somehow or another propping up the Cubans. They're helping them out, and they've been doing that since, whenever, since Castro got in. But they're also putting cash into Cuba. Here is what I think. This is what I'm taking away from this. The Russians have probably bought them low-grade arms, rifles, bullets, and, this kind of stuff, keeping them propped up, somewhat of a military. It's not really a military. It's not a force to be reckoned with. But, Russia is giving them cash. And here's what I think. The Russians have this technology, and we know about it, because when Richard Nixon used to go to Russia, he would complain of all these psychological problems, and it is known in hindsight that when Nixon went to Russia, they were using some form of electronic eavesdropping or some form of harassment on Nixon. You can Google that. Google Nixon microwave auditory effect, or Google Richard Nixon goes to Russia, complains of psychological problems. Just figure out how to put that Google query together. Google it and it'll come up. I'm not going to do it because I've already seen the videos. I've already read about this a long time ago. I don't need to go back there. But I do know that Nixon had been affected by this same type of electronic, harassment. But I think what happened is Russia gave them some form of electronic technology that does what it does. We know what it does to us. I'm not going to talk too much about what it's done to me because I'm just not going to really go there. I talked about one time. I do have a video. If you want to go back and look at the video, I report where I see a V2K harassment device. I actually saw a device probably about this dimension, had a dial in the middle of it, kind of like a dimmer switch. It had a cord, and it was on a tree. It was about this, is approximately about like this. I'm not going to go in there. I want to keep this video short. But I have seen something, and I don't think it was mind reading technology. What I heard, and I could hear every time I got in that field of where the waveform, whatever, radio wave or sound wave, acoustic wave, whenever I got into that wave field, I could hear something that sounded like rushing water, like water going over a brook or a fast moving current. You know how water trickles? And I was looking up and I thought, well, maybe it's coming through the air duct, but it's not. A lot of people, when they complain of things like that, they always talk about fans, or it could be coming from seems like it's coming from an aquarium or things like that, but it's really not coming from things like that. It's coming from somewhere else. And I actually saw this device and I describe it in another video. I'm not going down that road tonight. You want to know about that? Watch the video. What I think, Russia bought them some type of electronic eavesdropping devices, some form of electronic deal where you can use the microwave auditory hearing effect, the Frey effect, and eavesdrop on people. I think what happened is that they were either poorly trained on this or something went wrong while they were using it on the embassy workers. They could have probably used it on their own people, but why? Why harass our own people? They're just, they're poor peasants. Let's see what we can, extract out of somebody else who's actually got a thought process going on more than just, I need to eat today and I need to find a place to sleep, like in Cuba. These people got it hard down there. So naturally thinking that embassy workers could be spies or engaged in some form of espionage, which some embassy workers throughout the world do or engage in. So I think what happened is they got the equipment, probably don't know how to work it very well, and something went wrong. Maybe somebody didn't dial something in right, or a software glitch happened, and the waves that were being sent to these embassy workers just got ramped up. I mean, maybe if you're supposed to keep it on a level of 10, it went up to 100 or maybe 10,000. I don't know. I don't know what kind of scale to put it on, but I'm just saying, in my opinion, I think that something went wrong. And when it went wrong, it caused these people to have these problems. I have been hit with some form of electronic harassment, but I wouldn't know V2K from AM, FM, transponder or signal. I just really wouldn't, because I've never seen a V2K before, and I've never had someone go, okay, Doug, this is V2K right here, and we're going to turn it on, and this is what it feels like when you hear it. That were to happen, I go, okay, this is V2K, but I don't know. There are so many different types of electronic devices that can be used to cause auditory sensations. I just don't want to get down that road. I don't want to get in there. But what I'm willing to say, and what I think, I'm looking at my time. Oh, it's down at the bottom. And what I'm willing to say is, I speculate that, like I said, I think that these guys got this device, they wanted to eavesdrop, and something went wrong. And I don't think it went wrong on one time. I think it went wrong on multiple times. Maybe they had some other objective and they weren't getting the results that they felt that they should have gotten because of piss poor training from the Russians, and they just totally screwed up a surveillance opportunity against the embassy workers. Now, like I said, the Canadian embassy workers and the U.S. embassy workers have since complained that when I was in my bed, I heard this loud ringing noise, or this loud this, or this loud that. I don't recall exactly what it was, but they leave, they come home, they see a doctor, and now they're having some type of neurological deficit, in which they see a doctor, and the doctor, there's just, you go see a neurologist, and he goes through these tests and go, okay, yeah, you do have some type of neurological problem, and they're calling it some type of traumatic brain injury. How severe? I don't know. But now, here's where it relates to us. It relates to us that these people, even once they leave Cuba and they come back to the U.S. and they go back to Canada and they live their lives, now they're getting home intrusions. People are breaking in their home, and they're not stealing valuables. Things are being messed around. You can tell there's been a home invasion, but nothing's been stolen. Now, I'm going to say this. I have never in my entire life been aware that any of my homes have ever been broken into. I think that the people who target me know better than that, because I am armed and I will not hesitate. If it is well within my Second Amendment right, I will give you a lead diet, and you're not going to leave my home unless it's on a gurney or a stretcher or in a coffin. But it's never happened to me. But I've read so much stuff online, watched people's videos where they claim that, someone broke in my house. They took away they took apart my microwave. I had money laying on the counter. My purse was over here. Valuables everywhere. They took the door off the hinges. Things of this nature. Just stuff that doesn't make any sense, like the rest of the things that happen to targeted individuals doesn't make any sense. That way, when you report it to somebody, you go, this doesn't make any sense. So nobody knows really how to deal with this. But now that it's happening to these embassy workers, I'm telling you, we are on the verge of having all of this blown open. An investigation, there's going to be an investigation of this. Somebody mentioned Mike Pompeo. Joe Wilson wrote a letter to Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, citing new reports that victims of the health attacks in Cuba and China have experienced harassment and break-ins after they were evacuated from their overseas posts and returned to the United States. There is going to be an investigation. I can't wait. I'm like, oh, goody, goody, goody gumdrops. I can't wait. And you shouldn't wait either. It's just groundbreaking. If you've watched any of my videos since I started creating videos, every 2, 3, 4, 5 videos, I always tell you, I think that we're on to something. I think that we're in the latter days of this being blown open, and I truly believe this. Number one, when I began researching the term gang stalking, okay, I heard something. It was my somebody on Facebook. I heard a bell go off. I thought it was my camera. Number one, when I began to research on gang stalking, there was just very little information, and the information that was out there, it reptilian shapeshifters, aliens, RH blood, government helicopters flying over my house, fire trucks following me, and all of these things. And I was just like, wow, that's not anywhere close to what I know this to be. But I would find some really good information, but among the good information, it was buried in all this just conspiratory aliens, shapeshifters, reptilian people. And there's people who still comment on these videos I make, and they're talking about your reptilian mind can't understand what's going on. And I'm like, hey dude, what do you mean by reptilian mind? I don't know what that means. So basically, when I started this channel in 2017 in March, I'm like, I think that we're in the latter days of this being blown open, and I really truly do. And when this started happening to the embassy workers back in, I think it was August or something like that of 2017, I'm like, we're getting closer. We are getting closer. Now, Mike Pompeo is aware of this. Mike Pompeo is going to get involved. Something is going to come of this, because you can't simply, harass these people with some unknown device. Now, they're saying it's unknown, but we all know what it is. The people in the government know what it is. Whether or not they want to admit they know what it is a totally different story, because I can promise you, Mike Pompeo knows what this is. Donald Trump may not, but Mike Pompeo, these people that have been in a government for more than 4 or 5 years, they've heard stories of how, deep state people that work within the FBI, the CIA, the DOJ, they've got these electronic devices to where if they want out of a relationship with their wife, they just deploy one of these electronic devices, target their wife with it, and then do a little street theater. Bam, 6 months later, she's crazy, she's not working, and guess who gets custody of the kids? The guy who works for the government. The old lady, she gets a little bit of something, but she's out of the picture. You bring in the new trophy wife, you got your kids intact, you move on with your life. Those stories are all in government, even though I haven't heard those stories. I just know they exist. They have to. With that said, this is basically what's going on. If you don't know anything about this, Google it. Query something like U.S. Embassy attack in Cuba. Go to Google and, let me see, Google, do a query, and then go to the news tab and do a query under news, like Cuban electronic harassment. Bam. Here we go. Showing results for Cuban electronic harassment. Exploding mojitos, the first sonic attacks targeting America. The strange case of American diplomats in Cuba as the mystery. Deep and divisive, the growing mystery of ill diplomats in Cuba. Mark Cuban pledges, well, sexual, that's something else. But there's at least 3 stories under that query. Cuban electronic harassment. Just, once you read one story on a Cuban harassment attack, you'll get keywords like sonic attacks, health scare, things like that. And just keep working your query, and if you want to find out more about this. And I urge everybody to find out more about this. Don't just go, well, I watched that gang stalking show and he clued me in on everything, because I guarantee you, I don't know everything. And the best research is the research that you do. That's going to do it for the show. Please like, share, subscribe, comment on the videos. I reply to all. I will say this. I'm thinking about doing a video on tinnitus. I saw some interesting stuff on the internet, but my problem is that the phone that I use for software that I've downloaded to my phone, I can't show it to you because it's on my phone, and this is not a phone, it's a phone case. And I want to tell you about how to dial in that tone that you hear in your ear by a spectrum analyzer, an audio spectrum analyzer, and find out what frequency that is. I really want to do this for a video because I want to see what everybody's frequency is that suffer tinnitus. Not everybody who is a TI suffer this. I don't know if what I hear in my head has anything to do at all with electronic harassment. I am just speculating. I'm interested in, and I'm curious as to find out that if any other targeted individual who complains about tinnitus ringing in the ears hears the same frequency that I do. I've heard other people talk about this on their YouTube channels, and I'm kind of close to another guy who he's right within almost the same frequency, and I just want to see this. Probably about a year and a half ago, I wanted to do something, the gang stalking research program organization, and I wanted to put out a poll because I have a lot of experience in building websites, and do a poll and find out what your frequency is that you hear as far as tinnitus, if you hear it, if you experience nausea, if you have type 2 diabetes, how often do you have harassment attacks, do you experience workplace mobbing. I just wanted to go over like maybe 50 to 75 talking points that seem to be in the range of what other people experience as targeted individuals, and then come up with some type of poll and have people answer these questions, and then go, can we glean information from this poll to go, well, yeah. And the reason I say type 2 diabetes is because I keep an eye on Dr. John Hall, and he saying that one of the things that he's seeing emerge is that a lot of targeted individuals starting to complain of type 2 diabetes. It's his theory, the best that I can remember, that he thinks that electronic harassment may have something to do with that. Of course, I'm not a doctor. I can't go down that road, but it is a very interesting theory. As far as nausea, I know that I have gone through periods where I've experienced a lot of nausea and then they suddenly just go away. But then again, on the flip side, I'm a former cancer patient. I've had 19 days of cobalt therapy, and I have digestive problems anyway. I've always had a problem with nausea, so I can't go, well, I have nausea because I'm a targeted individual because they're targeting me with a certain frequency. I can't say that with any certainty. And as far as what I hear in my ears, I can't say with any certainty that it's because of electronic harassment, because to tell you the honest God's truth, from the time I was 15 all the way up until, I don't know, about 25 or 30, I've been playing in bands. I had Marshall amplifiers, big stack speakers, and I would stick my head in front of the cabinet and just wail away, and I destroyed my hearing. So, and on top of that, I've also shot a lot of firearms without hearing protection, and I'm sure that didn't do my ears any good. Anyway, that's the end of this program. We're 28 minutes into this. Please like, share, and subscribe. I may do that tinnitus video next if I can figure out how to do it. If I got an extra phone around here, I don't know. Because I do have an extra phone. I don't know that it works or not. But if I can download this app and show it to you on another phone, I will, because it would be really helpful to use this. Also, that's the end of this program. Please like, share, and subscribe. Good night, people. Yeah.
That's all, folks.